Good evening, everyone. My name is Brother Pete Marcelana,
And I'm Gabe and Bro.
and we are both proud members of the General Douglas MacArthur Lodge 853, and we welcome you to tonight's special presentation. Tonight, we have the honor of introducing one of the most influential and well-respected members in the fraternity, our officer's coach, Worshipful Ed Caballero. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Worshipful Caballero has almost a decade of Masonic service where he has served in almost every office of our Masonic Lodge. He is married and has 2 children. He is an emergency room nurse, and he is a past master and a pillar member of GDML 853. Welcome again, Worshipful.
Thank you, Brother Pete.
Definitely. So thanks again for taking the time out of your busy day and schedule, Worshipful, to talk with us tonight. So we're this is a long time coming. I know that we really have talked about putting ourselves out there and really kind of writing our own narrative. So it's an honor to do that here and with you. I've always admired and respected you as a Mason and as a man. So and in K. Pete, same thing. So I'm super happy that you guys are here. So tell us what you're currently up to at the lodge and what direction are you kind of leading the troops?
First of all, thank you so much, Worshipful and Brother Pete, for this is a very good thing you're doing here, providing venue for a Masonic interaction online. You know, I kind of like the idea that although we cannot reach brothers geographically, we can still reach them online.
Right.
So, good evening, by the way, or good morning if you're listening to this podcast, brethren, whithersoever dispersed. If you're in the other side of the country or in the world, good morning or good evening for that matter. My name is Ed Caballero. I am currently the officer's coach of General Douglas MacArthur Lodge, and you asked me what we were doing as of this moment or this current time of the year. So we are now in the second quarter of the Masonic year, and it's almost about time for the officers to advance in the respective station, almost.
Yeah, big time.
Right? Yeah. So one of my, my roles is to help them transition into that next station. So I am there, to support whatever they needed with their proficiency. If they needed someone to review with, I'm there. But also, we always call ourselves as the guardians of the rituals, right? So we make sure that whenever we provide a ritual, a degree to the candidate, it is what the Grand Lodge has stated within our manual. So we try to practice whenever we can and provide guidance to the officers, especially at this time of year that we are about in the middle of it. We are having a lot of degrees scheduled. So specifically, we are practicing on the second degree. So we have a lot of brethren coming up and due for their fellow craft degree. So that's what we are hoping to accomplish within this month or the next month.
It's definitely a busy year with degree work, kind of, and that's how the Masonry kind of tends to be, right? Like you have different cycles. So you have your degree cycles right now. It seems like we're on the second degree, and there are other lodges throughout the jurisdictions of California that are kind of on that same pattern. And you're right. And so one of the big questions right now in Grand Lodge is, well, how do we get our guys qualified, or who, where are we at in qualifications? Because it's coming up quickly, right? And so, and those are the next leaders of our lodges, and so. To have somebody at the helm to really emphasize the direct and correct approach to the ritual is exactly why we wanted to have you on, because of your well-respected kind of manner, and people know, when you go to ritual practice. And if we could kind of sidetrack a little bit to ask or to demonstrate or illustrate what ritual is to the people who may not know what Masonry is, I'd love to hear your interpretation of what that is.
So ritual is like a play, it's a drama, a dramatization or enactment. So in order for you to, play the roles that you are supposed to play, you have to follow the script. So we are guardian of that script.
Right.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's what that degree is.
Yeah, definitely. Which to me, in my opinion, coming in understanding kind of a little bit of the disciplinary side of being a military guy in my former life, understanding that like things have to happen for a reason, right? They have to be in sequential order. They have to be delivered in a tone and in a way that captures the moment of what you're doing. So thank you for explaining that to us.
Right.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you, Wbro.
Thank you. Okay.
So we're gonna just ask you some questions, and
Sure.
can you share a brief history of your? Well, I think that we asked that, right? Did we? Or
No,
Oh, okay.
ask. We'd love to
Yeah.
hear. Yeah.
If you can share a brief history of your journey into Freemasonry and how you earned your way to being selected as the officer's coach at the GDML.
It's a big question, I know.
You know, I have no idea what Masonry is before I joined, right? So I think I can say that my influence came from my very good friend who is also a worshipful master, worshipful Paddy Espeleta. We were friends at the time before I joined Masonry. And so we were hanging out, drinking, some adult beverages all the time. And whenever we have that occasion, I noticed that he is wearing a formal suit all the time. And in halfway of our fellowship, he will disappear. And then, where did you go to? He would say, oh, I have a meeting. Or he would say, I have a special obligation to the brethren. And so it makes me wonder. I said, what brethren? And then so he explained to me that, I'm a member of a fraternity and I'm a Mason. I thought at the time, Mason, I have a backyard. They needed a cement there, yeah, let's do it. Let's call your friends here. Brethren, I have a big backyard that needed to be cemented. But then, I started researching. And so I found out that Masonry has a rich 300-year-old tradition of ancient charges and regulations, a bond of friendship that existed 300 years ago and still existed now.
Right.
And, some of the founding fathers of United States, even in the Philippines, and people who influence the historical arena of the whole world some of them are Masons.
Right.
So I told myself, oh, this is really amazing. I want to be a part of this group, and I want to be a part of that bond that they shared together that make him live in the halfway of our, fellowship so that he can fulfill his obligation to his brothers.
Yeah.
So I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of something bigger than what we are doing here right now.
Right.
So I became, so I researched and I gave him my application. Well, he didn't give me an application actually for 2 years. So every year I will ask, because we are having a, like a fellowship every my birthday. I will invite him. So on my 3rd year of my birthday of my fellowship, he finally gave me an application.
Oh.
Right. So I'm ready. I'm ready because I've known him for a long time.
Yeah.
So I am ready, and so I eventually became a Mason, and I was hungry. I was hungry for knowledge at the time. I want to devour everything. So I memorized whatever I can memorize, from the charges, preambulation, martial interrogation, all the lectures, all the rules. I memorized that, from one time to another. So I did not stop until, I started memorizing the funeral Masons, and all the other stuff that I can think of that I think. Because I want to be useful. I want to be useful to the Lodge. I want to be useful to the brethren. If they needed me, I'm there.
Sure.
So then that started my journey. And then I became a worshipful master. And shortly after that, I got appointed as the officer's coach. I did not ask for that. In fact, I'm just contented to be a brother.
Yeah.
But then when they asked me to serve, I am there to serve.
Sure.
Because they are my brothers.
So. And I think I'd like to just kind of emphasize that, like, that was your selection to that position is very honored, right? But is based on your merit. Like, from the beginning, you were grinding it, like you were trying to understand it. So let me ask kind of a side note question to that. Like, did you have a moment in time when you're like, I understand this? Like, what was your, like, aha moment in Masonry?
Well, it didn't actually come down after my first degree. And on my first degree, when I was hoodwinked, and when they opened their eyes, I literally opened my eyes, and I saw a lot of brethren, my brethren, they're standing like a pillar, forming a pillar in front of me.
Yeah.
That I cried.
Wow.
That was very, that is a dramatic moment for me.
Sure. Yeah, because leading up to that, right? Like
Yeah.
it's the beginning of the Bible verse, right? Like,
Exactly.
And I'm sure, like, we're gonna put you on the spot. So, like, what
Right.
is that verse?
Right.
So, do you know?
In the beginning. Right.
You're right. So, like, this is exactly why he's the officer's
That
coach,
is
right?
literally
Yeah.
in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So, thank you for sharing that. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. That's beautiful.
Mhm.
So,
And by the way, I just wanted to share that I witnessed one of your funeral rites performance, worshipful, and it was really great. And yeah, it's
Thank you, Brother Pete.
it's very, it's very somber. You know, I don't want to say ritual, but it's a very somber ceremony.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it's a very, it's deep. So I unfortunately don't. I would never want to see that, obviously, but like,
Right.
but I do at some point in future look forward to seeing that. So, does that sound weird? Right. It's like I want to hear it, but I don't want to hear it because of
Yes.
what is implied with it.
exactly.
It's not a pleasant experience,
Yes.
but it's an obligation
Yes.
and our
It's a prideful
responsibility. It's a responsibility
Yeah.
that we are going to honor, give
Right?
the last honor to our brother that has fallen and drop his
Absolutely.
working tools.
Yeah.
So
Because in that ceremony, you really talk about like everything. Like we're just here. Everything is. It's not the end, right? Like there's more to life than we know. And I think that Masonry and Freemasonry really understands the timeless philosophies of life, right? Like how do you get to that point to where you understand, like,
yeah,
you know, like what's that next level? How do I connect with divinity, right? Masonry, in my opinion, kind of like clears you out of everything and puts you in a position to receive that. So, yeah. So, thank you for answering that question. So, what kind of attributes do you believe are needed to be an officer in a Masonic lodge?
you know, I think I would ask myself, how would I teach myself, right? Or what would be my ideal coach if I have somebody coach me? What would be the qualities that I would be looking for? So I started asking that myself as well. But, you know, I just want to be a brother. As I said before, you know, I did not aspire to become a worshipful master. I did not aspire to become a past master or
Right.
an officer's coach.
Sure.
I just want to be a brother. And then it leads, you know, one thing to another. Although I just want to be that, I love the ritual. I love the esoteric part of our fraternity. I wanted to help other lodges. So whenever I have the opportunity, I would join them, ask them, you need help, or you want me to do a part for you? So I'm there all the time, right? So I become like a big brother to them, or for most of our brethren, like a big brother to the brethren who has just joined, or, you know, younger officers that's coming up.
Yeah.
So I have 5 other brothers, my blood brothers. So I'm also, you know, like a big brother to them.
Sure.
And when consider this, if you want them to follow you, or to think that they want to follow your footsteps, then you must inspire them as well. And you can only inspire them if you are doing good yourself,
Right.
or, you know, you lead by example, right? So you cannot tell them what to do if you're not doing it yourself.
Sure. Yeah.
So for me, rather than demanding them to follow, it would be very best if you inspire them or encourage them to be proficient. So every brother, every officer has their own level of proficiency, and I believe that, you know, that in their mind that they can be maybe proficient. But that's why we're there. We are going to set a standard for proficiency. you cannot set a very high standard of proficiency because literally the officers might have a stiff neck looking up to that standard all the time, right? But then you cannot have an officer that has a very low standard because you don't want your other brothers to look down on you and they can have a stiff neck looking down on your proficiency because you're too low, right?
Right.
So you have to have a certain standard, and then that standard needs to be laid down before we start. This is our rules. These are rules and regulations. These are the standard of our craft. This is what we needed to do.
For sure.
So all of us needs to be aware of that. That's why, if I say, we are not judges, right? We are not judges, or we're not the master of the lodge. We were a master of lodge at one point, but officers' calls, we are past masters. We leave that to the master. We are there to guide.
Yeah.
We're there to support. Yeah. So it's their role. The officers, that's their execution. During practice, yes, we are in charge of practice. Okay, we do. This is what you do. This is what you do, and then you give them. This is your play now. This is your arena.
Right.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I think
That's deep.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And you are known for your in-depth esoteric studies. How has your study influenced your understanding of Freemasonry and its underlying values?
it's like having an email, right? All these marketers, send you an email, and then you just automatically click it and delete, right? On the first salvo, and then again they will send you another email, and then you automatically click and delete. The third time, send you again, maybe different format this time, makes you interested, right? So, maybe this is a good one, yeah. It's kind of like that, right? When you are memorizing, learning your degree, especially on the first part of your journey when you are lectured, you will not understand anything or everything, probably.
Yeah.
But the moment you start memorizing and learning and doing it repeatedly, these terms, passion, temperance, fortitude, the virtues, you will not memorize that or know anything about that when it is being lectured to you. But the moment you memorize, you study that and do it repeatedly like muscle memory,
Yes.
it will be inculcated and you will slowly understand that's what it means. And then you can gradually apply it to your, daily life.
Right. So, and that's one of the things that I highly promote too. It's like Masonry, like you get what you put into it, right? And like it's taken us, because anybody could be a Mason.
Yeah.
You could go through it. You could sneak by, but like, are you really doing yourself, your family, your community a service by really just taking such a timeless philosophy to, and just kind of winging it? Like, we see that a lot in Masonry, right? And so like it's up to us to really like be that standard, right? Just how you are. I know I've been in many practices with you where whenever Caballero says jump, it's like how high, right? Like because he is the keeper of that ritual, right? And like so that's how we operate. And the beautiful thing, and one of the reasons why I really was like, hey man, we got to get this thing going to really introduce the world to our membership, is because not only are they like amazing people and great in society and do some really emergency room, like I can only imagine what kind of stuff happens in there, right? Like, and then for you to take that, but to apply Freemasonry into your life, right? To understand that, like, all those different values and lessons that we learn, like, man, it's so. Why wouldn't you go through it word by word and understand every single meaning, right? Like,
Exactly.
that way when it's your turn to go, it's like, I've been ready, I've just been watching, waiting for our former generation to kind of get through this so that I can get in there. So it's a beautiful thing. So thank you for inspiring.
Yeah, no problem.
And
Thank
leading
you.
by example. I really like that you said, like, there's one, we called it 11 troop leading, or not troop leading procedures, but one of the principles of leadership was like never to ask anybody to do something that you couldn't do yourself. Right?
That's right.
You can, like, so thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
I want to expand on that because a lot of lodges right now, are, I would say, cramming to find a solution, right?
Right.
How they would make their lodge lively or alive, But think of it this way: if you can see, let's say for example, you start with an applicant and they become an entered apprentice mason. They will go to the lodge. You treat them as if they are visitors, right? They go to the lodge and then you go home, and then they will not, help cleaning the dishes. I'll say that, they will clean the dishes or be organize the events. If they don't do any of that, right? If they don't do any helps, you just want them to get, okay, it's okay, just go home, whatever. And then when you're done, then you can come back, and then you can do this. You can become an officer, and you become a master. So seems like that's kind of the trend that's happening now that I'm seeing. So if you are going to make that person or a brother a mason, a master mason, right, or a worshipful master at the time, now would he expect the same treatment or the same procedure as he would do to the previous or to the next generation? Like, so for example, he will ask, why are there nobody helping the lodge? Why there's no volunteering? Well, because in the first place, you did not do it when you were an apprentice,
right?
Or the junior warden. You did not do that. So do not expect the same thing, right? So if you do that beforehand, then everybody will know that that's what they're gonna do before they start, right? Because everybody's doing it already.
Sure.
The first time they step into the door. So if they're doing it already and they become a master, it's automatic. You don't have to do anything because they know already, right? And you expect it to them. Right. But if they don't do it, then you can do it because you have already done it. You mop the floors, okay? You barbecued for the brethren, okay? We serve them with ice, grass ice, or whatever kind of ice they put in their refreshment. You know how to serve. You serve with humility, and you humbled yourself in the very beginning.
Right.
A good leader is a good follower.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness, that is so beautiful. You couldn't be more right about that. You can't expect to lead, or you can't expect to lead if you can't follow correctly. So, let me ask you: in a perfect world, well, first, do you need some ice with your drink?
No.
Okay. Because I have. No. Oh my God.
Okay. Yes.
In a perfect world, tell me. So how would you build a master mason, right? If you were to say, okay, I have one job in my entire life, nothing else matters, I'm going to build one master mason. Where do you start, and how do you get them there?
I would ask by asking them their intention. Okay, what is your intention? Are you here for the connection, right? See, a lot of brother has different purposes. Regardless, we have to determine first if they are a good brother or they're a good fit for the fraternity or not, right?
Yeah.
Or for this lodge in particular.
Sure.
Because maybe this lodge is composed of younger, generation, and wanted to play basketball all the time. And this particular applicant would come in. He wants to do golf, right? And nobody will accompany him to golf. So that might not be a perfect fit.
Right.
So, in my opinion, all these checks, all these background checks needed to be done beforehand, before we give them an application. And if they really like the brethren inside the lodge.
Right.
Because we will become a family. Masonry is a lifestyle, and it's a way of life.
Yes.
Right? So, you cannot say that tomorrow I will not practice masonry. I will just be an ordinary person. No, it's not that you can turn on and off, right? So that's why it's very important that whatever, for me, right, I'm very inspired before I joined because of the example that my coach showed me. And
which we love. I know I've met Worship Buddy a couple times.
Right.
I think he's an awesome guy. He's always well dressed, put together. So
right.
I can see how easily inspired you would be by connecting with somebody like him.
And he is very low key, right? He's very low profile. He's very humble, right? He achieved a lot, right? Okay. So I wanted to be him, right? So for me, right, I wanted to make a Mason like him, right? So I asked him, what did you started to do? I mop the floor, I wash the dishes, I serve the brethren.
We got to pay our dues, right?
I think that's the first step.
Yeah.
Because not only they have the opportunity to serve we will consider ourselves as older brothers, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like a family.
Sure.
You know, if you have a family, you have the younger brother. You ask your younger brother, go get me some ice. All right.
Right.
So it's kind of like that. You
Yeah,
know,
sure.
the political arena is like that in the house.
Yeah.
Because when I was younger, my mother said, "Okay, you delegate to your brothers. Who will wash the dishes?
Right, right.
Who will wash the whatever, right?"
Yeah, for sure.
But you know how to do it. Okay.
sure.
So I think we start there.
Yeah, and it's almost like there's a balance to where that the right person, after you've said like, this guy's gonna. My litmus test for Freemasonry is like, can I trust you to watch my daughters on a Friday night, right? Like, can I say, hey, I gotta go. Like, here's the keys to my house. I got a couple kids here. Like, and there's nobody who I would say no to at this lodge, right? So that's my litmus test. With that, so. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. Back. If I can kind of just, I kind of lost a little bit of track of that. But if you'd like to continue with that, as far as.
Well, we're talking about how to create the ideal Mason.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
We want it to be, right? So, for me,
yeah, but that person would also want to have a little bit of like, let me make sure that your glass is not empty, right? Like, let me make sure, like, oh, your glass looks a little empty. Like right now, I want to, make sure that you have some. So.
Right. So, because eventually, we wanted them to be our friends first.
Right.
Before we make them our brother, because our brother is our family, right? So, I mean, like what you said, you would not trust another person to watch your daughter. That's not trust. It's all about you trust your brother with all your heart, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
on a sleeve, right? Like you wear your heart on it.
So there might not be a template, but I think it's a good template to start with. That you start them by serving the lodge or let them show that they can be humble, regardless of their stature in life.
But how do you find those people?
I think you don't. If they're interested, then they will find you.
I like that. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean we don't go out there or here come join us, but we show them by our works, right? By our community involvement, by becoming leaders in the community.
Right.
That guy is a really good guy. I wonder what makes him like that. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So
there seems to be, I don't want to say an aura, but there's a very distinct. I could spot a Master Mason. They're different, and not in a bad way, and not in a weird way, but it's almost like they represent themselves in anything that they do, whether that's going to the grocery store, whether that's going to the gas station. It's like if you're a Mason, like you can't turn it off. Just like going back to what you said earlier, it's a lifestyle. It is what it is, and so yeah, it's beautiful to see that. And I sit here and I think a lot of times, like being on these committees are like, well, how do we bolster membership? And I'm like, how do we do that, right? Like, how do we, because like our philosophies are so deep and so beautiful and so timeless that like, who wouldn't want to figure out how to be the very best version of themselves that they can be?
Right.
This isn't a religious organization. Like there are Muslims, there are Christians, there are Catholics, there, one of my dear friends on the committee, Worshipful Shemsky down south, is Jewish, and he's, we offered that same question, like, why aren't there more, Jews? There's 2% Jewish people in California Freemasonry. He's like, why aren't there? And of course, my response to those type of questions were like, we have to get out there. We have to let people know who we are, right? Like, I study some of Judaism as well, and like, if I were confident enough to go to a synagogue to be like, I'm a Mason, like, hey, let me introduce myself, I would, right? Like, so maybe that's the thing. Maybe it's not recruiting, but it's a selective approach to be like, you go there, you go somewhere, right? It could be a church, or it could be a Buddhist temple or something, and you make to know friends, right? You get to know people at work.
They just resonate.
Yes,
to you,
right? And then you're like,
vice versa. Yeah.
I would like to introduce you to some of my dearest friends, right? And then it's just like, oh shoot, what is that? Like this guy, and he's already looking at you like, man, something's already special about you. Right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, I'm sorry I digressed, but
That's interesting.
Where we so going back to that, can you shed some light on your approach towards the research in Freemasonry, and like what advice would you give a Mason that's eager to dive into some of the esoterics or history or philosophy of, like, how would you tell that person, like, where do you start?
I think, it's like a continuing education, right? Research. When you become a master Mason, it's like graduating in high school. Right. You have a little bit of knowledge. You can go anywhere and have enjoy the rights and privileges, but that is limited. High school has a limited potential, right? And so you become an officer, and your journey leads you to the become a worshipful master, and now you have a bachelor's degree. It's like having a bachelor's degree, right?
I like that.
Okay, so when you finish your bachelor's degree, then you think you're done, right? But then you have to do continuing education units to continue your practice of whatever profession you've chosen, right? Like if you're a doctor, doctor of what? Doctor of medicine, if you're a medicine doctor, you might want to become a cardiologist, a neurologist. So Masonry is like that. It is a progressive science, right? So you need to be able to continue your learning. There's a lot of historical data, historical facts that we still need to know, that we don't know and interpret, and the understanding of those data will lead to a better future for us. So we need to continue to research, advance our knowledge into Masonry, because the times is progressing as well. We don't want to be left behind. So I think it's something like that, in the prospect. If you put it like that, so you don't want to stop your journey, otherwise you're going to be stagnant.
Right. and I'm sure you can attest to this too, but like every time I go and I see a third degree or I see any of the degrees, like there's always something that I'm like, I didn't notice that before, right? And so like, but yeah, going through the sciences of Freemasonry, absolutely right, because you have to evolve, right? Just because you're certified or you're quote unquote, an expert or proficient in something doesn't mean that it stops, right? Like it's your duty and responsibility to teach that next generation, right? So
that's right.
Yeah.
That's why you're the coach.
Right? That's why he's a coach.
Yeah. That was good. Awesome. So next question, Worshipful. We have Freemasonry holds high regard for its virtues and values. Can you please explain how these values are applied in your daily life and the impact they have had on your personal growth?
That's a really broad topic. We have a lot of values that are discussed in the lectures.
We do.
In our craft. But maybe I can talk about one value that maybe for me is very important, or probably the most important value, which is temperance. Okay, I notice a lot of Masons are very passionate. They are very passionate husband, passionate father, or passionate in all the things that they do.
Sure.
Right. This is, I think, what started the revolution in the very beginning. Because they are very passionate and they believe in the system. They wanted to change it. Oh, let's change the system right away. Let's go have a revolution. Let's change it. This is a better plan of action, right? A lot of Masons are like that, very passionate. That's why it can be a good thing, right? But not necessarily a good thing all the time. The good thing about Masonry is we have a textbook and an answer to that. And it teaches us that the course of action sometimes is not action all the time, but in the lecture, we are told that silence and circumspection, right? It gives us time to pause and think before we open our mouth,
Right.
And act,
Yeah.
and temperance. Learn to subdue your passion, right? So that sometimes is difficult to do, but we need to practice it.
Sure.
It is a very important. It can damage relationship. Sometimes we can be very passionate. We don't have control over our mouth sometimes.
Yeah.
I know I'm like that sometimes, or maybe most of the time, and I'm still in the process of struggling of controlling it.
We're
right?
all building ourselves, of
Right.
course. Yeah.
But it's part of, it's part of making yourself a better person. That takes alone, that silence and circumspection.
Right.
Sometimes, my favorite ad is when my wife asks me, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm just sitting." Because sometimes you sit and think, and sometimes you just sit.
Mm.
You don't have to do anything. Gives you pause.
Yeah. I like
You know.
that. That's
It's almost like a form of meditation,
right.
right?
Yeah. And that's one reason why, like, I personally, when I wear my ring or something of masonry, it's to remind myself, like, especially if I'm driving, because I always have, we wear our rings, and it's to remind me, like, hey, slow down, take a pause. Like,
Right.
that person that just cut you off, it is what it is. Like, I don't know the backstory. That person could be trying to get to their way home because their child is sick. I don't know, right? And it's up to us. It's our responsibility to be like, we could take it on the chin, right? Like, it's okay, because we're taking a pause and saying, like,
Exactly.
it is what it is.
Do you have to act all the time?
Yeah,
Even if
you
you're
know.
right. Even if you're right.
Even if you're right, right? Yeah.
Oh, that's a good temperance example right there.
Right? Right, yeah. So,
Yeah.
going with that, how do you view the role of Freemasonry in today's society?
It's a good one.
It is a good one. I was thinking of how did the ancient brethren, why did they form masonry before? What was going on in their mind? And in my opinion, same as like us, like this, we're having a conversation. You from from South Dakota, and you from maybe from Illinois, and me from California, and we are all brick masons. We are operative masons. We came to California, and we in this tavern, we hang out in this tavern, and then we exchange stories, right? That's how masonry started before. Exchange stories and updates. Oh, what's the update in Illinois? Do they needed builders over there or whatever, right? So it is how they form the lodges, right? Nowadays, I think it is even more important because a lot of the workers travel today in today's world,
Right?
and I think it is even more important because we can now reach people even if they travel through online.
Exactly.
So the need and the principle is still there. The execution might be different,
right.
but we need to evolve.
Yeah.
We need to evolve. We need to adapt to this new world.
Right.
I mean, the context of our fraternity is from 300 years ago. We preserve the tradition, but the execution, how we are going to execute right now on
like
this
that.
evolving time.
Right.
We need to evolve. But masonry is as important now as it was before.
Absolutely.
Even more important now.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Right.
Could not agree more.
Oh, that's a good one. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next question, Worshipful here. What opportunities and challenges do you see for the fraternity in the it's kind of similar, but challenges.
Yeah, like what challenges do you see?
In the contemporary world.
Yeah.
I think when I say that they needed masonry before, I think they needed masonry more now. The challenge, I think, is sometimes we wanted to preserve our fraternity. We wanted to preserve our craft. Unfortunately, it's dying. That's the fact. It's
Sure.
dying. We are trying to revive it. And in doing so, we are compromising a lot of stuff. We are trying to rush in, half-baked measures. That's what we're doing. So I think it is important to consider that, even if you wanted the numbers, you probably need to consider numbers versus quantity.
Right.
That's the most challenge. I know a lot of lodges, right? Getting a lot of applications. Oh, this is a good guy. Okay, we have 5, 10 applications. Doing 5 degrees, 5 entered apprentice degrees in one day. Next month, 5 degrees again. After that, nothing happens.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, it's because I'm a huge proponent in a deep vetting process, right? Like you have to know who you guys are. You can't just give away applications, because then you're most lodges right now are operating at 13 to 18% membership, right? So if that's 100 people, there's only 18 people showing up at max throughout every. But does that make the other guys who aren't showing up necessarily bad Masons? Like I don't know, right? But I think that in order to provide or in order to execute our, like what we provide for the community, we have to have members who are all in, right? We have to have guys who are like, I understand this because of good coaching, because of good like vetting processes, because of like other things like, I don't want to say expensive, but I want to say we need to really reevaluate what our dues and application fees are, because like the more that it kind of is, and you have to find a balance, right? Like how much skin do you have in this? Like what's your skin in this game, right? So we put something that's, it might be $1,000 for the
Right.
for the application fee, because that's going to cover first, second, third degree, plus all the dinners, the everything, right? So it should be about, with market inflation, about $1,000 to $1,300, in my opinion, right? And like that's going to bring a different demographic of person who's like, if I'm going to invest $1,300 out of my family's budget, like I'm going to be the best at this that I can. So my thing is like, well, how do we find those people, right? Like how do we say, hey, here's who we are? We're not in my opinion, like we aren't necessarily dying, because the philosophy is going to be here long before we have the brand name of Freemasons on us. But how do we keep just like you said, how do we keep the traditions going? How do we keep them relevant? How do we let people know who we are, where to find us, and like, hey, how do I knock on your guys' door? So,
Podcasting.
right? Yeah, we got to write our own narratives, and bring in the deepest, intimate feelings and understandings of what our fraternity brings through, guys like Worship, Caballero and other guys, and like that's what, in my opinion, was going to tell people like, oh wait, these guys, because and a little bit of pat on our backs, like we are guys who do some big things in society. We are guys who are very important in our industries, and like are experts. Like we're guys who make the world move, right? And like we have, not to mention that, but we have a strong familial support structure behind us with our ladies, right? Like that's a huge thing. And so like I look at our fraternity as one of the world's best kept hidden secrets. And I'm like, man, I want to share this with the people who deserve it most, right? Like,
I share that passion as well.
Yeah.
It's like, I know we have some secrets that it's designed to be for membership only.
For sure.
And there's a lot of things that I wanted to talk about to anybody, that this is what we're all about.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So many times at work, like when I'm on a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting, and I'm like, if somebody's being great, like I want to be like, man, like how close what do you know about Freemasonry? It's hard to ask those questions, right? As men, it's hard for us to make relationships outside of our normal group. Like it's hard to walk up to a guy and be like, hey, I like the way you look. You seem like you're a presentable guy. Like, let me introduce you. That's not necessarily. How do we do that?
We had that discussion like the other day about almost like being in a bubble, right? We don't want to be that,
right?
And deserving with all the benefits and the secrets with the members, but at the same time, it's like we're still part of society.
And we're a big part of society.
So. But going back to.
I think the big challenge is, as I said, when we are bringing in new applicants, and then we wanted to revitalize our lodge. That's one of the challenges right now. We wanted to revitalize our lodge, so we go out to the community. Okay, we show ourselves, and then here comes 10 applicants. Oh, seems like a good fit. You're a good guy. and then we ballot them, and then they all come in, and then we do the first degree. After that, nothing happens. They will not come back to the lodge anymore. And I ask myself, why is this happening? I know a lot of lodges has that problem.
Mm-hmm.
They don't
Most
want to come
lodges
back.
have that problem.
I think it's because of disillusionment. The expectations were not there.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
They were in the dark
Right.
before. Oh, I'm just curious, and then after that, oh, this is it.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important to determine first in the very beginning. You need to make them your friend.
Mm-hmm.
Establish that relationship.
Yeah.
Make that the communication, make that bond of friendship. If you really want this, and become a part of this community, a part of this family, then this is what we do.
Mm-hmm.
The ritual is the secondary.
Right.
If the bond of friendship is already there.
Yeah. Right. Then the special bonds of us obligating to the same things and the same positions and in the same circumstances mean a lot more, right?
That's just the formality.
Yeah.
Makes it official, like a
Right.
seal,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
But it's already there.
Yeah.
We don't. Okay, I don't even know that guy, but you still voted.
Right.
Put your ballot in.
Yeah.
How do you put your ballot in if you don't know him?
Right.
Right. So
Yeah. That's a tough one. I mean, and it's up to the 13 to 18% of Masons to really be like,
yeah.
no, like this is like we understand, and I'm gonna brag about us a little bit because we don't fall into that 13 to 18%. I think we are what do you call that? We are we're different than that, and I say that because there has not been a stated meeting where I haven't seen 30 plus people on the sidelines. Like that is crazy. That doesn't happen, right? We're an exception to the policy. And so, and I think that the biggest result of that success is that we don't give away petitions. Like even as a past master, I was like, I'm not going to walk into this assuming that I'm going to be accepted as a brother, right? In
Right.
GDML, like, no, like you got to pay your dues. You have to like, so I get it. I understand.
And even if sometimes, right? Okay, we are this brother has, or this applicant has already passed the investigation
Yeah,
committee, and but other brothers don't know him.
Mm-hmm.
Worshipful, can you postpone the balloting? We don't know this person.
Yeah.
Gives us time because
Right.
otherwise, how can you ballot a person if you don't know him?
Right.
So give it a little time. I think this is one of the key components that GDML excels. So if you want to progress in the next degree, you still have to prove yourself
Right.
that you are committed to this, because it's a commitment,
Yeah.
right? Not only for the lodge, because we practice the degree and we are committed to deliver you the degree, but on the same manner, you are also committed to the lodge.
Mm-hmm.
Your lodge is your family,
Right.
so
Yeah.
you cannot say that feels like it is an obligation, right? Not like that. I hope not, right?
Sure, yeah.
But it should be like, oh, I am glad, I'm happy that I
Yes.
am going to be,
It's an honor. It should be an honor, right?
Right? Yeah. Exactly, because
Yeah.
it's a journey,
Yes.
and so
Yeah.
that's my say about that.
For sure, yeah. And going through it with guys who are just as committed it makes it much more sincere and meaningful, right? And so, so as the officers coach, how do you ensure that like the rich heritage and traditions of Freemasonry are passed on to the younger generations in different type of manners? Or in essence, like what do you do to? How do you personally inspire the lodge? In addition to, well, aside from being exemplary in your craft.
No, I think I think the ritual speaks for itself. Like we are all bonded by the ritual,
Sure.
and
That's it. Bonded. Yeah.
I always say that if you are not proficient, or if you don't want to do the ritual, how can we make a new Mason? Because everybody has to go through the ritual, right?
Yeah.
So we have to protect the ritual.
Mhm.
We have to guard it. We need to make sure that it is the standard ritual that we are going to deliver. Otherwise, if you love this person that is applying to receive the degrees of masonry, you need to give him the same degree works as you have received, right? Because you love him already.
Right.
He is already your friend before he joined or before you are making him your brother.
Right.
So why would you not give him the same courtesy? You need to give him the same courtesy by adhering to the standards of our ritual for him to experience the same experience you had when you joined the craft.
Right. And that's one of the most personal gifts that you can assist with bringing somebody in, right, is to assist with delivering an impactful lecture, an impactful ritual, right? Like that's, you bring somebody in that you've actually taken the time to vet, and you're like, your initiation is coming up, right? Like, and you might have a little part in it, but like that little part, like you do your best and you absolutely understand it. Like even whatever part you're giving is so impactful that like, it's the love that you put into it. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then you can say that he has gone what you have gone before.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Because, if you are going to do like a halfway, let's say, for example, you lax in your practice in your degree.
Sure.
And you did not really practice, or you're too busy maybe, but he's really, okay, let's just give him. And then, that we need to consider that, for a brother, that's their special moment. That is very special for them. They prepared for it. They waited for it. They made their proficiency. They studied for it. They work hard.
Yeah.
So the officers needs to work hard as well, and the lodge to prepare.
You only get one chance.
Right, exactly. It's a commitment between the brother and the lodge, and the
Right.
officers of the lodge who is going to deliver the lecture
Yeah.
or the degree or the proficiency or whatever. So that's why we need to maintain that kind of proficiency. It has to be in the same standard as what you have experienced. Now, if you've experienced maybe a substandard, then I don't know what to say about that. But as far as I know, the people who give me the degree, it was awesome. I was moved by the experience itself.
Yeah. The lineage of past masters in GDML is amazing. Oh my goodness. Like I feel like I always feel a little bit weird when I get back from stated meetings, especially now that having been accepted as a member of GDML, I always come back like, dang it, did I act weird around those guys? And sometimes I think it's because I'm so like, I don't want to say nervous, but like I really admire the past masters of GDML. Like those guys are like, I want to say like, no shit, those guys are like the best dudes that like I've seen examples of Masons, like not just in their ritual, but like just the presence that they have, and I'm thinking about, I don't even want to leave anybody out, so I'm not going to specifically mention names, but because all those guys who I'm thinking about are active, right? Like those are the guys we see they're in the group chats that we see every Friday, and those are the guys that I'm like, oh my God, like even to this day when I see you, the past masters, I'm like, I want to be like that dude. Like I can't, I'm going to put in work so I could be like that dude. And like, I'm sure like, I don't know, it's just me, but I highly admire the past masters because I think that, and let me ask you, so is there a little bit of, when you talk to your prospects, is there a little bit of an implication that like, hey, if you come into this lodge, this is a labor or a working lodge, you're eventually going to end up in a chair? And does that kind of take an effect on your decision whether or not to have them apply? Like how do you what's the formula or what's the recipe to have like we bring in guys who stay active? Like is there a conversation? It's like, hey man, like you come in okay.
I say that before, like last practice. So somebody came and he said he wanted to join the fraternity. He wanted to join the lodge. So I told him this is what, do you know what you are joining? Why are you joining? And, do you need to travel? How far do you have to travel? Because you have to consider all those factors. If you join the lodge, you become a part of the whole. It's like you're the ankle or you're the feet, maybe
Right,
we are
yeah.
a part of the whole.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to participate. If we are going to make this commitment to you, then you are going to make a commitment to us, right? The officers and the lodge of the brethren of this lodge we are going to prepare. We're going to practice. If you are going to be accepted, then we will prepare for you. In the same manner, you need to reciprocate. You are going to start by showing us your sincerity and be humble. You know, you need to do this, a couple of stuff that you need to do first
Right.
to show.
Your commitment.
Exactly.
Right.
And, you know, not only that, but in order for us to determine if it's a good fit and for you also to judge that if you really like to join,
Sure.
gives you an opportunity to back out, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's no point if you don't like it and then okay, I'm just going to go through this and then after that I'm going to,
Yeah.
you know, maybe demit or not be active anymore. We don't want that.
Yeah.
We want Masons to be contributor,
Right.
you know, contributor to the progress of the lodge.
Yeah.
So, you know, like a beehive, right?
Right. Absolutely.
In the lecture of the, third degree, we are all a beehive, right? And you know, going back to the officers, right? So you wanted me to share how do we encourage our officers to become proficient in their esoteric works. And when I was an officer, you know, a couple of years ago, I struggled with that because, you know, I put a certain standard to myself. And then when I became a master, I said, you know, the standard that I put to myself may not be the same standard that I can put to the brethren because everybody has their own commitment, right?
Right.
Masonry is a journey, right? You know, although they say we are traveling on the same journey of the rough and rugged road, our pace is individual.
Sure.
You know, you might be walking slow, I may be walking fast. So in their journey, the officers, in their proficiency, some may be faster and some may be slower. So you have to set a certain standard. How do you achieve that? How do you achieve a certain standard? Now it's difficult sometimes, you know, because sometimes you can become like a dictator, you know, and you need to do this on this time, this particular do this. And, you know, putting a lot of pressure.
Yeah, which is hard to do it in an all-volunteer organization.
Right.
So.
Putting a lot of pressure on the brethren, and they already, you don't know, maybe they have a pressure at work, pressure in the family, in the everyday living, you know, financial pressure. You don't know. So I said, I would just tell them, okay, this is what we are going to do, okay, and then you do it in your own time.
Yeah.
But it needs to be done. You need to be able to practice the first. What is our first instrument? That symbolic instrument is the 24-inch gauge, right?
Yep.
So you need to be able to practice how to divide your time.
Right. I know I personally reference that thing every day, right? Because, like, in my opinion, a 24-inch gauge is not flexible, but you need to be able to evolve with it, right? Like, and it's, so I totally understand that. Yeah.
I mean, you cannot be like in 4 hours I'm going to do this.
For sure.
But
for
it's
sure.
not like that.
Yeah.
You know, you need to be able to learn to say that I cannot do this today.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, but it needs to be done.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing.
Yeah.
You know, you shouldn't be very strict about it. It is a volunteer organization.
Sure. Yeah.
But you need to be able to inspire. I did it. I will show you that I did it.
Yeah.
So that somehow, maybe I can inspire you that you can do it too.
Right.
And we can only hope for the best.
Yeah. And
Right.
I think you're part of a lineage of examples of why that's working and how that's working. And so, yeah, wow. Hashtag GDML.
Thank you. Yep. So, next question. Now, on a lighter note, it is widely known that you have quite the talent for singing in karaoke. How did you discover this talent, and how has it played into your role as a Freemason?
You know, it's not really a talent, but I think everybody can do it. Like karaoke. There's no judge, right?
Yeah.
So I just love to do it. It breaks the ice. There's a good, relaxing, fun stuff to do with the brethren. It's all about camaraderie. If I can do something else, like maybe spit up fires or I will do it.
Juggle.
It's or juggle, right? But that's the only talent that I can do right now. So that's what I can offer. But as I said, our fraternity is unique because we have the ability to choose our brothers, and for us to form the bond of friendship and brotherly love is through the fellowship. The informal meetings outside the lodge. That's how we know each other.
Right.
That's how we establish our relationship.
Yeah.
Not with that meetings, that's just formality.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, because it's hard to talk in a you can't talk in a stadium meeting, right?
Yeah.
So I get it. I totally understand that.
So you can establish that kind of relationship in an informal environment.
Yeah.
And all that fun happening. Like if you think about GDML, there's a lot of brethren that pursues or endeavors their own hobbies. We have runners, we have golfers, we have shooters. Yeah. So we have different kinds of active brethren, but we are all in the same house.
Yeah.
Right? In harmonious relationship.
Yeah.
Because we support each other. Like, okay, you need this, okay, do you need that?
Yeah.
We are there to support each other.
Right.
And Masonry is like that, in my opinion. That brotherly love of friendship. Imagine if you are a real family, like your blood brothers. You cannot pursue the same hobbies or endeavors in life, all of you, right?
Right.
One can become a doctor, one can become an engineer, one can become something else.
Yeah.
Or one can become jobless, But whatever they become, that's what they wanted to do and was they happy. And in the context of, supporting each other, and giving them the opportunity to expand and become a better version of themselves is what we can do for them because we support each other.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's what the best thing we can do.
Yeah.
For our brother and for the fraternity.
Yeah. So if you are watching this and have never heard of a Masonic Lodge or anything, this is exactly what that lifestyle is about. And I highly encourage you to Google your city name, Masonic Lodge, hit enter, and then see what time they meet. Go down there and see if this is something that, see if you fit into that group. And don't be, if that particular group doesn't fit your needs, again, it's a very reciprocating type of relationship, right? So like you're being interviewed as much as you're interviewing that lodge. So I encourage you to do some research. Like there are different lodges with different characteristics and different cultures and different goals, right? And so like you have to figure out, just like in how we do it in our professional worlds, like where do I best fit? In my trajectory, which lodge best suits me? So a lot of stuff to think about. And to wrap this up, again, I'd like to thank you, Warshi, for taking the time to share your most intimate details of yourself and on your journey. And before we go, I have to ask, if you're to choose one song that it best encapsulates the essence of Freemasonry, what would that be to you?
You raise me up.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
Perfect. Oh my goodness. Beautiful. But
you heard of that song, right?
I have. Yeah,
Okay.
it's that one.
You don't sing it that much, though.
Yeah, because it's my closing song.
Okay. It's a closer.
It's a closer. Yeah.
Okay. So that's a beautiful one. I think we had, didn't we have somebody singing that at your installation a few years ago? We did.
Maybe I was singing at one of this occasion. Yeah.
Something like that. But anyways, yeah. So beautiful song. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And thanks again for your time, Worshipful. Do you have any final closing thoughts for us and
Yeah,
everyone?
sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me in
You're
this
welcome.
special segment of your podcast tonight. And I have a message for the brethren, wheresoever dispersed out there. If you're a Mason, if you are a standing Mason today, if you stand with me, or if you're a Mason on your first step in your journey to become a Mason, your story is already written in the rich history of our books, right? If we look back, we can see that 300 years ago we started, and the historical arena has already been written, and we cannot rewrite it. Masonry is special because we have a chance, we can choose our brother. We must forever watch or guard that west gate and guard that ballot that only the worthy
Yes.
can be accepted as a Mason. Now, if we stand together and united together, we can move forward into the future and write our own history. The
Great.
history is already written, but the future is not written yet. We can use our tools that already given to us
Yeah.
to write that history.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Worshipful Gabe and Brother Pete, for inviting me.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
And I hope you continue this podcast. This is a really good venue.
Oh, we're gonna
Yes,
keep it
we
going.
have a
so-
lineup.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you're one of the first very, very special guests that we have
All right,
in
amen to
person.
that.
Yeah.
Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Hey, everyone.
All right.